In the late 90s and early 2000s, the Sonic the Hedgehog series changed forever. The games became 3D platformers that played very differently than before. They were highly experimental, introducing brand new gameplay styles and a ton of new characters to the series. If you're someone like me who grew up during this time, these are probably the first Sonic games you ever played, and if you're watching this video, I bet you love them. Almost as much as Sabrina Carpenter, or watching anime. In fact, some of my fondest memories in gaming are from when I played these games as a kid. But the issue with experiments is if you're not careful with them, they can blow up in your face. Year after year with these games being released, an interesting thing kept happening. The quality got worse and worse, until everything culminated in 2006 with one of the most infamous games ever made that almost killed the series. However, we're not there yet. To fully understand the story of how the treasured second era of Sonic came crashing down, we need to start at the beginning. Welcome to the early 3D Sonic retrospective. Let's take a step back to the mid-90s and the 5th generation of consoles. Every gaming franchise was about to jump into 3D on the N64 and PlayStation, so Sega wanted Sonic to join in and help sell their console, the Sega Saturn. The Sega Technical Institute was put to work on the game Sonic Extreme. It was given the deadline of 1996's holiday season, but this would not pan out. Extreme went through development hell that was so horrendous. Both of the main programmers moved out of their apartments into the office because they spent almost their whole time working on the game. Eventually they got really sick due to being overworked, so Extreme was cancelled. Now there's a lot more to the story besides that you can find online, however the bottom line is this game was cursed. And honestly, the weird looking gameplay we have of it does not look very fun to me. It might have been for the best it wasn't released. At least things in the gaming industry have gotten better since then. Oh. After Extreme died, Sonic's co-creator Yuji Naka, designer Takashi Iizuka, and other employees formed the second version of Sonic Team at Sega. They started making a new game in the series for the Saturn, but they felt that the console was too limiting. Thankfully, Sega informed Naka that their next system, the Dreamcast, will be much more powerful. Development shifted over there, and the struggling Saturn was left with no main Sonic game, which is pretty insane to think about. It's the equivalent of a Nintendo console having no Mario platformer. One thing I found interesting when researching this game is the Dreamcast was so early in development at this point that Sonic Team was able to directly request features from the hardware team. That's very unique. A challenge the developers encountered is because Sonic runs very fast, the levels had to be giant maps to accommodate this, which meant more memory would have to be used. In order to fit the allowed memory on the Dreamcast, each stage was split up into multiple areas. Another concern about the massive stages is they took a lot of time and effort to make, but the player is going to clear them in a few minutes. So the developers decided to add more characters besides Sonic to better utilize the levels. Speaking of the characters, Sonic Team had a hard time translating them into 3D while still looking good. At the same time, Sega was concerned that at this point, Sonic and his friends were dated and too cute. Ultimately, it was decided that they should be redesigned. They were given longer limbs and look more twisted than before. I'm a big fan of these redesigns, especially the new Sonic. He still looks cute, but he's even cooler than before, and I personally prefer him when he's a bit shorter. Although I kinda miss his brown eyes. The game was called Sonic Adventure, and it launched with the Dreamcast in December of 1998 in Japan. The rest of the world would have to wait till fall 1999 to play it. I was not one of those people, because I kind of wasn't alive at the time. Although I do remember when I eventually got the game. My family was at this party where my dad won money, and he was so happy about this that he offered to take me and my brother to GameStop right before it closed. Now he hated when we played video games, so this is extremely surprising. I had just played the Sonic Mega Collection on the GameCube, so I grabbed Sonic Adventure DX, and my brother got Wind Waker, which is an incredible game. It was a pretty successful night, and I learned a really important lesson about my family that day that has always stuck with me. They love money. Also, since I'm already here, I'm just gonna remind you to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It would really help me out. Thanks! I remember really enjoying Sonic Adventure as a kid. The gameplay was very fun, I liked the story, and I loved the soundtrack. The strange thing about the game though, is while I had a great time with it, I didn't replay it that much. But in my head, it's always been one of my favorite Sonic games. How could both of these statements be true? Well, it's a bit complicated. Sonic Adventure opens with the mysterious FMV that shows a city under attack, a giant Eggman ship taking off, and is that a purple cat? It's a really confident intro that gives little context and makes you excited to play the game to figure out what's going on. The big question Adventure had to answer is how do you take the gameplay from the Genesis games and translate that to 3D? The devs decided to keep what still works and retool what doesn't. For example, running fast through stages and exploring different routes both work in 3D, which is why those are the same as before. But other features like loops and jumping into enemies at high speed are much trickier to implement. That's why those have been redesigned. Before you run through a loop, there's always a dash pad to help you get through it without causing any physics issues. And Sonic was given a new ability to help him hit enemies in 3D. It's called the homing attack, where if you double tap the jump button, he locks onto a badnik to attack them. And when you're not near an enemy, the move acts like an air dash that helps out with platforming. Now it is still possible to hit enemies by simply jumping into them, but it's much less precise in 3D, so I think the homing attack was a good solution. Slopes are another aspect that was changed. There's much less of them than before, and while you still run faster down them, the levels are no longer designed in a way where you can use that speed to launch yourself upwards. Heck, Sonic can't even roll up into a ball anymore. He can only run and spin dash. These changes are contentious among some fans because they arguably simplify the gameplay. While that may be true, I understand why Sonic Team made these changes, and they don't bother me. What I care about is if the gameplay is fun, and it is. It's not as enjoyable as being in a cult, but it's still good. Playing through the stages is pretty fun, and Sonic controls almost perfectly. For the first 3D game in the series, they hit it out of the park with how smooth he feels. I also adore all the set pieces in the levels. They're incredibly memorable, and even though most of them are automated, they're still really impressive and make the experience feel like an actual adventure. How could you not love being chased by a giant whale or running down a skyscraper? It's awesome. You know what else is great? The spin dash. It's extremely helpful in this game for accessing mini shortcuts, especially if you use it on a slope. It might be the best version of the move across the whole series. Okay, my next point is very minor. I am a big fan of Sonic's running animation in this game, and I wish he did it more often. Sega, please bring this back. Video games and animations are the only time where this movement looks cool, and we need more of it. So I like Sonic's gameplay, but the game isn't just about him. There are other characters in Sonic Adventure with their own campaigns. How many? 6 total. That is a lot. For reference, Sonic 3 and K only had 3 characters, so they doubled the amount. This was super ambitious. And unfortunately, now is when we need to start talking about problems. While there are a ton of characters in this game, not all of them are fun to play as. Let's start with Tails. He plays as you would expect. He's almost the exact same as Sonic, except he can fly. And wow, his flight is much faster than usual in this game, so he can kinda break the stages. To be fair, the devs try to account for this. The goal of Sonic stages are just to reach the end, but when you play as Tails, you need to do this and get there before Sonic. However, you can fly and he can't, so it's a very easy race. Oh well, I appreciate the effort, and at least Tails is fun to play as. Knuckles also made a great transition to 3D. Gliding around the stages and climbing walls is still enjoyable. Tails and him can't spin dash anymore, though they can still roll around, and now they can use melee attacks instead. Knuckles' levels have an interesting gimmick to them. They're about treasure hunting, where you're looking for 3 pieces of the Master Emerald. The locations are randomized each playthrough, meaning the stages are a bit different every time. You search through them until this radar goes off, and it helps you locate each piece. I enjoy these levels because they're generally quick, and it's fun gliding around as Knuckles in a large space. The radar was a really good idea, so the player doesn't get frustrated looking for the emerald pieces. I would have preferred if the goal of the stages was just to reach the end, but whatever, this works. Amy is playable for the first time, and she's a bit different than the other characters we're used to. She's much slower and doesn't curl into a ball when she jumps. In order to attack enemies, she has to swing a hammer in the air or on the ground. And if you use the hammer when you're running, it launches her high up into the air. Playing as Amy is fine, but it's kinda weird that her speed is so low. It makes sense in universe that she's not as fast as Sonic and his friends, however it makes her playthrough not as fun, because you're basically just playing a regular platformer instead of a Sonic game. The only other feature to talk about with Amy is her stages are about running away from a robot called Zero. Not that Zero.
No, this isn't happening! There's no reason for me to go on. What? What am I fighting for?
The thing is, even if the robot catches up to you, it takes him so long to attack that you can always just hit him away. It's a fake gimmick in my opinion. The next guy is brand new. His name is E102 Gamma, and he's one of Eggman's robots, which is a fun idea for a playable character. Unfortunately, he doesn't live up to this potential. Gamma can lock onto enemies and then automatically shoot at them. His levels operate on a countdown, and you can earn more time by hitting multiple badniks at once. Although I never even pay attention to the timer because it's extremely generous. What we're left with is a character who runs through the stages, presses the B button a lot, and that's basically it. It works, but it's not that engaging because you're not even aiming at the enemies. And like Amy, he's kinda slow. Now we get to everyone's favorite character, Big the Cat. He's definitely, idiosyncratic. His levels are all about fishing for his friend Froggy. I'm not kidding. I know everyone says this, but why is this in a Sonic game? Fishing is not exciting, and it's incredibly out of place here. And Froggy can be a real pain to catch sometimes if you don't know what you're doing. I forget how to play as Big every playthrough, so his stages are always a struggle at first. Plus he's really slow, which is also not fun. He's easily the worst character, but at least his gameplay isn't bad. I think it works well for how a fishing game should play. It's just out of place. I can't even say it's boring because I'm too confused why I'm playing this. So those are the characters. Essentially Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles are solid, but the rest don't fit in well, even though playing as them is okay. I can appreciate how ambitious they were in designing these guys. They all feel distinct from each other, and there's a ton of variety to the gameplay between high-speed platforming, an early third-person shooter, and fishing. The main issue I have with these characters is to fully complete the game, you need to play as everyone and finish their campaigns. This unlocks the conclusion to the story. So Sonic Adventure becomes a mess, where half the characters aren't fun to play as, but are mandatory. And this is the main reason why I don't replay this game often. I want to see the full story, but I need to play as these guys to do so, and that's annoying. As aforementioned, the characters share stages with each other. There's 11 regular levels, and you'll visit each one with 3 different characters. They're often in different sections of the stage, and because of the distinct gameplay styles, this rarely feels repetitive or lazy. For example, when you play the level Red Mountain as Sonic, he goes through the outside and the volcano section. Then in Knuckles' story, he only explores the outside area, and it feels different, because he's flying around exploring the stage. And when you play the level as Gamma, it takes place entirely within the volcano section, and you're shooting at everything the whole time. But there are shared events between the different characters that are recycled. Such as when Sonic fights Knuckles and Chaos 4 back to back, you need to replay these 2 boss fights once as Tails in his campaign, and then again as Knuckles. The fights are the exact same, yet you're playing them 3 times, which I'm not a fan of. I think the saving grace for the weaker characters in this game is not every campaign is the same length. Sonic easily has the largest story. He has the biggest stages, and he plays through 10 of them. Beating his campaign took me 2.5 hours. On the other hand, Big's levels are much shorter, and he only has 4 of them. And then Amy just has 3 stages. I think half of her campaign is watching cutscenes. Both of these stories I beat in 50 minutes. So at least you're not stuck playing as these guys for that long, but I still would have preferred it if Amy, Big, and Gamma were left out, and they spent more time developing Knuckles and Tails. When I replay this game, I try to give myself the best possible experience. What this means is I start with the worst characters, and then end off with my favorites. Well, kinda. Sonic is the best character, and I play his story first, because he's the only one available at default before you unlock everyone else. Then once that's over, I go right into Big the Cat to get him out of the way. Next up is Amy, then Gamma, followed by Knuckles, and I end with Tails. It's extremely weird, but I think it's funny, and Sonic and Tails have so much overlap in their campaigns that I genuinely prefer spacing those 2 characters far apart from each other. New to the series are the adventure fields or hub worlds, large maps you explore to access the levels and locations in the story. People are mixed on if hub worlds should be in Sonic games. Speaking for myself, I prefer when they're not there because the games have a faster pace when you just go from level to level. But the hub worlds are generally fine with me. It is neat running around these maps and talking to the NPCs. In Adventure, you can even interact with the other characters sometimes. The main issue with hub worlds is if you have to spend too much time in them, and thankfully that isn't the case in this game. Usually you just run around the map for a minute or 2 to get an item to unlock a level, and then bam, you're in the stage. Aside from the levels and the adventure fields, there are some boss fights. Most of these are simple and easy, especially the character battles that have some really funny voice lines.
Oh no!
In the levels, you can once again get power-ups from item boxes. All the ones we know and love from Sonic 3 and K Return, except for the water and fire shields. And the electric shield no longer gives Sonic a double jump, but hey, at least we got the homing attack now. As you play through the different stories, every character can find equipment that are permanent upgrades. For instance, Sonic can get the Lightspeed shoes, where if you charge up a spin dash for long enough, he can dash through a path of rings. Another notable upgrade are the shovel claws for Knuckles that let him dig through the ground for items and emerald pieces. Most of these are situational, though I still enjoy finding them, and it's cool that your characters wear them afterwards, even in other stories. Returning to the stages, I remember during this playthrough that I don't enjoy playing them with Sonic as much as I did in the Genesis games. And I couldn't figure out why, because they're really well designed and fun. But now I know the reason. The levels are missing an added incentive. In the previous games, the main goal was to reach the end of the level, but there were also optional special stages you had to work to get into. They were a form of skill expression, since you needed to beat the stages without getting hit much, or explore them to find the giant rings. Then, you had to complete the special stage, and at the end when you got the Chaos mode, it felt rewarding. Sonic Adventure doesn't have special stages or extra objectives, which I was missing because just beating the levels isn't as fun to me. Okay, technically that's not true. There are extra objectives. Every stage in the game has 3 levels, C, B, and A. The first time you beat a stage, it's the C version, and then if you return to the stage, you can play the B version. And completing level B unlocks the level A version. These different levels have added tasks that make the stages more complicated, like requiring 50 rings at the end or reaching the goal in a time limit. Playing these versions of the stages was very fun since I had to play well, especially the time limit ones because you need to reach the shortcuts to have a chance. However, the issue I have with this system is I need to beat the less interesting level C to unlock levels B and A, so my first time playing the stages isn't as fun as it could be. This could have been fixed if they gave you all 3 objectives at once, and the only required one was the simple C version, aka just beat the level. And because I have to replay every stage for these extra objectives, I usually don't bother. But I do appreciate that they're in the game, and thankfully this issue is fixed in the sequel. It's the one thing that personally bugs me about the great Sonic stages. The last topic I want to discuss about the core gameplay is the camera. Like many other early 3D games, it's not great since the developers were still figuring out how to make it work. There's a lot of times where it freaks out or shows you something it probably shouldn't. I feel bad critiquing this because Adventure is one of the first 3D platformers, so of course the camera is going to be problematic. But even with that context, it's kind of hard to go back to. When you beat a stage, you get a collectible called an emblem. You can also receive these by completing the level B and A missions, searching the hub worlds, and beating minigames. In the Dreamcast release, you don't get anything for finding all the emblems, but this isn't the case with the GameCube port, Sonic Adventure DX. Here, getting emblems unlocks the Game Gear Sonic games, and obtaining all of them unlocks the playable Metal Sonic, which is a decent reward. While we're on the topic, the GameCube version of this game was released on Steam, and that's what I played for the video. I have some issues with SADX because it changed the character models, made the lighting worse, and used uglier textures. There were some great improvements though, like updating the game to 60 FPS and letting you skip cutscenes. Now I don't own a Dreamcast, so I used some graphics mods in my playthrough that basically make the DX version look like the original. I think this is the best and most convenient way to play the game. There's a lot more you can discuss about the differences between each version, but that's all I have to say about the topic. Besides the stages, there are some optional modes you can play through. The DX version added mission mode, where you complete certain tasks the game gives you. These are fine, I guess, although they weren't very interesting to me. A feature a lot of fans love is the Chow Garden. In these locations, you raise these cute little blue creatures called the Chow. You can pet them, feed them animals to raise their stats, give them nicknames, and even race them. I usually skip the Chow Garden because it's not really my thing, but I had fun just messing around here when I was recording footage. It's a good time. Graphically, Sonic Adventure is great. It looks dated nowadays, but compared to games on the N64 and PlayStation, it's phenomenal, and it was only a launch title for the Dreamcast. I love the way the characters look. I think there's something so charming about their low polygon models. They even move around a bit during the cutscenes. It's stiff, but I appreciate the effort. And the FMVs look really good. I think Sonic Team agrees with me because you see some of them multiple times, namely the one where the egg carrier takes off. The soundtrack is incredible. It sounds more like rock music, which I think fits nicely for Sonic as a character. So in stages like Windy Valley, you'll hear a lot more guitars than before, and I'm personally all for it. Almost every song is great, and they've been stuck in my head for the last 15 years. I think Skydeck is my personal favorite stage theme right now. Another addition to the series are vocal tracks. Almost all of these are connected to one of the playable characters, and they're also really good. They're definitely more eclectic. Like Knuckles' theme is literally a rap song where the lyrics are incredible. Listen to this. You can call me Knuckles. Unlike Sonic, I don't chuckle. I'd rather flex my muscles. That is so perfect. I know Knuckles says oh no, but I'm saying oh yes. The lead composer, Jun Sano, really hit it out of the park with this music. Adventure added full voice acting to the series, which was a big leap considering there wasn't even dialogue in the past games. So we get to know a lot more about all these characters, and I think that's cool. As you can probably guess for a late 90s video game, the voice acting itself isn't amazing or anything, but I still enjoy it. I really like Ryan Drummond and Dean Bristow as Sonic and Eggman. Ryan really captures how Sonic is a free spirit who wants to save everyone and stop Robotnik.
I am Dr. Robotnik, the greatest scientific genius in the world.
Whatever you say, Eggman.
Enough!
Easily the worst performance is Corey Bringus' Tails, which you definitely cannot blame him for because he was literally a child when he recorded this game. I don't know why Sonic Team didn't just hire a professional voice actor instead of an actual child like every animated TV show does. We got some really funny line delivery out of this at least.
Hey Knuckles, what's up? That's Eggman. I wonder what happened to Sonic.
Okay, y'all have waited long enough. Let's talk about the story. It's much more complicated than the Genesis games, and there are so many more cutscenes to watch between the 6 characters. The basic premise of Sonic Adventure is there's a liquid creature called Chaos who transforms into a stronger form when he gets a Chaos Emerald. Eggman wants to keep feeding Chaos the emeralds, so Chaos will destroy Station Square, the main hub road. With the city gone, he plans to build an amusement park called Robotnik Land. Yeah, that is why he wants to decimate an entire city. I love this game. Sonic's story is about him repeatedly fighting Eggman and Chaos until he defeats both of them. That's literally it. Tails' story is mostly the same, since he's partnered with Sonic for a lot of it, but towards the end, he learns to become more independent and defeats Eggman all by himself. It's not an amazing character arc, but I'll take what I can get. By the way, at the end of Tails' playthrough, Eggman launches a missile at the city when he's still inside it, and it would have killed everyone including himself if it wasn't a dud. Knuckles' story begins with Chaos destroying the Master Emerald, which crashes Angel Island into the ocean. So Knuckles needs to go and collect all its pieces. Along the way, he runs into the other characters, and somehow gets tricked by Eggman into fighting Sonic again.
Way to go, Knucklehead!
At the end, he restores the Master Emerald. In Amy's story, she protects this blue bird, or Blue Flicky, from Eggman's robot Zero. Eventually, she sees that the Flicky has a family and helps reunite them. I guess the point of Amy's plot is in Sonic CD, she was a damsel in distress, but by the end of Adventure, she becomes a hero herself by helping the Flicky and defeating Zero. That's a neat character arc. And I enjoy her interactions with Sonic in this game.
Listen, this birdie seems to be in trouble, so you need to be his bodyguard for a while.
You must be kidding!
Gamma has the best story by far. He starts off as a mindless machine who serves Eggman, but after witnessing Robotnik's cruel treatment of the other E-Series robots and interacting with Amy and the Blue Flicky, he starts to rebel against his programming. First he helps Amy escape, and then he saves his E-Series brothers by destroying their robot bodies so they can escape Eggman's control. After freeing his brother Beta, Gamma's body is destroyed, and he too is freed. This ties in with Amy's story too, where he reunites with the Blue Flicky because they were a family before Eggman captured him. It's a good plot getting to see things from the POV of the animals Eggman captures and transforms. And in this and Tails' story, Eggman is a lot more sinister, which makes sense because these characters will be much more afraid of him than Sonic.
You fool. Away, before I make mincemeat out of you.
I'm not scared. I'm not scared.
Big's plot is a joke. His friend Froggy keeps running away, so Big chases after him. He's completely oblivious to everything else going on, and that's the comedy. But it's not very funny, so like his gameplay, it's mostly pointless. The one character I haven't mentioned yet is Tikal. She's a spirit who sorta acts like your guide in the game. If you interact with her, she gives you some hints on how to play the game or where to go. She's an echidna spirit who interacts with all the characters by showing them different flashbacks. By playing every campaign, we learn the backstory of Sonic Adventure. A long time ago, Tikal's father was a warmonger who sought to harness the power of the Chaos Emeralds and the Master Emerald. She found the altar where the emeralds were and befriended the Chow living there. This led her to meeting Chaos, who is the guardian of the Chow. Tikal tried to stop her father, but he wouldn't listen, and he attacked the Chow when he tried to steal the emeralds. Chaos was outraged by this and destroyed the attackers. In order to stop Chaos from going on a rampage, Tikal sealed both of them inside the Master Emerald. She helps out the other characters because Chaos can destroy the world if he obtains all 7 emeralds. That's the basic gist of the story. Overall, it's fine. I appreciate that there are some character arcs, even if they're a bit underdeveloped. I can definitely admire that the plot is more complex than just stopping Eggman. And I like that we get to learn more about the echidnas, although I think more could have been done with this premise. Like Knuckles gets to see his extinct people in Tikal's flashbacks, but he's unaware of what's going on, meaning he doesn't get to talk about it or learn anything. I feel like they could have done a lot more with him, since he's one of the most important characters in this game. Now we can discuss Super Sonic's campaign. All the early 3D Sonic games conclude with these last story sections, and they primarily consist of a series of cutscenes and the final boss. In this mode, we find out Chaos is still alive, and he obtains all the emeralds despite the best efforts of Sonic and his friends. We then circle back to the opening cutscene, where Chaos completely fled Station Square, and we see him as the monster, Perfect Chaos. No one can stop him in this form. Eggman shows up with the egg carrier, and Perfect Chaos obliterates it in one hit. But then Chaos releases the emeralds, and apparently he was only using their negative energy, so Sonic is able to use their positive energy to become Super Sonic. Okay, sure. We've arrived at the final boss, and the main theme of the game, Open Your Heart, plays. I love this song. It's by the band Crush 40, and we're going to be discussing them a lot more in the future. I actually have a great memory when they played this song at the Sonic Symphony concert I went to. Hearing it in a massive theater while watching Super Sonic fight an incredible monster on the big screen was genuinely amazing. Then you add the visuals of the battle taking place in a destroyed city, and they ended with the awesome clips from the intro, and man, it was wonderful. It was my favorite part of that concert. Absolute perfection. During the fight, Super Sonic deals damage to Chaos by running into him at high speed, so try to avoid his attacks and you'll be okay. I wish the second phase didn't change the music. It's a good track, but it doesn't compare to the intensity of fighting the final boss with a rock song in the background. This is the only time you can play as Super Sonic in the game, and confining him to the final boss fight becomes a pattern going forward. A lot of fans are bothered by this, but you know me, I don't enjoy playing as Super Sonic, so I'm okay with this. With Chaos defeated, he reverts back to normal and sees that the Chow are alive and live in peace. Tikal thanks everyone for helping and departs with Chaos.
All's well that ends well, right?
Well, the city's completely destroyed, and millions of people are probably drowned, so no. That includes everyone you just saved from the missile attack, by the way. Good job. Wait, do you guys think Tails is trying to cover up how everyone failed to stop this disaster? Like, in-universe, are there going to be perfect Chaos deniers, with Tails leading the movement? Oh my god. I gotta get out of Station Square. I'm moving to San Francisco. Sonic sees Eggman taking off and chases after him. Some things never change. And that was Sonic Adventure. This game is very weird to critique. On the one hand, I have a lot of nostalgia for it, and I love the redesigns, music, and control. The game did a solid job at taking Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles from 2D into 3D. But I personally think they're all less fun to play as, and the other 3 characters aren't enjoyable. While the variety in their gameplay is cool, it makes the game harder to go back to because I want to play a fast-paced platformer, and fishing is not that. Sonic Adventure is a good game that has unfortunately not aged well due to its ambition. I respect it a lot, and I'll always be a big fan of it, even if I don't revisit the game much. Thankfully, Sega was able to take what worked here and figure out how to improve the formula for the sequel. And they made something truly special. See you then.
Hey, I'll play with you some other time.